What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cat and Beats, and welcome to episode 3, where we're going to be mixing bass using only Ableton 10.1. Alright, so this is part of a whole series, and right now we're doing bass. And bass is one of those things that is so easy to get wrong and wonky and not right and just all boo, I'm not sure. And you know, that time when you cry in the car because your mix sounds so crap. Yeah, we're gonna cover that. So, bass is difficult to get right because you can't really hear it unless you're on headphones or you're in a nice room with nice speakers and you're seated perfectly right, and only then are you able to really judge if the bass is good. So if you're not in one of these type of rooms, I highly suggest you wear some headphones for this episode. So let's have a listen to what the bass sounds like in the mix at this moment in time. Now, I understand what he was trying to do, but it's right now at this situation. So let's fix that so it sounds a little bit sexier. I don't know if you've noticed, but if we listen to this one more time, the moment that you're gonna start crying in your car is right here. Yes. Sorry, sweet tears of shit mix. So, if we just take a look here, we have the bass layer, which is cut somewhere here. So we basically still have some subharmonics at around 70-ish. So we're still going down here, which is about 50-ish. So we're still getting a bit of that coming through. And the reason why this is not perfect is because here we're getting a D, C, and G, and in the sub layer we're getting a D, D, and G. So that means that unfortunately during the making process there was one note played a little bit wrong there. What you try to do with your bass layers, if you're going to be layering anyway, is make sure that you play them at least on the same key. It doesn't have to be the same octave, you can move it around, but try to play it in the same key. You don't have to. You can also play it like a fifth above, but playing it like a first, what is this called? Like 2 semitones from the first note, it's just gonna sound a little bit blah. So try not to do that too much. So what we're gonna do now is just quickly do some audio janitor work where we're just gonna clean up and help this out. Because as you noticed, if we play this back, the womp, is actually playing inside of this patch. Now that is an issue because with Serum, there is a trigger. So as soon as you press the key down, it will trigger the womp. And if we're now looking at the bass here, the G is played a little bit late. The A is played a little bit late. We have a A over here that's played a little bit early. Ugh. If we then go over here, we have a D that's played early, a C sharp that's played early, an A sharp that's played early, a G sharp or G that's played early. So it's like, ooh, man, this is like dangerous territory, because at the end of the day, you're gonna get blah, 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 and at the same time, like that, you know, you're looking at like manic depression over here. Let's just unfreeze this track, and let's just fix this for a second. Let's first start with this one. And what I'm gonna do is just press Command A and Command Shift U, and then I'll quantize it to 1/8 with a 100% amount and just snap it to the grid. Bam, there you go. I'm gonna press legato really fast as well. I'm gonna turn off this automation because I can tell that somebody used a hold pedal. So let's just turn that off as well. We don't need that anymore. And there we go. Let's do the same thing over for the sub. Let's just unfreeze it and let's open it up. And then we're going to fix that one note as well, which was supposed to be a C. Okay, and then this one as well, because it's the same thing over and over. I'm going to press Command A, Command Shift U, press OK, press legato, and boom. We have 2 basses playing at the same time with hopefully the same LFO. Being the mwop, 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 mwop. Okay. Now, because I like making my life difficult, we're going to actually not use the LFO from Serum, because it's a little bit tedious. I'm gonna instead just ungroup this, get rid of all the processing, make this layer a mid layer. We're gonna cut out the low end, and we're gonna get this to womp a little bit nicer. But before we get into that, let's just fix this serum so that we don't have the LFO going on. So we're just gonna turn off the filter over here, have a little listen. That hurts my ears, which is great. So let's just get an EQ over here and make this a mid bass. And let's turn off that really high insanity over there, because that's just literally killing me. I think what I'm also going to do is, instead of use a slope like this. And let's turn it down with this one as well to just get rid of that top. I hurt my ears type of feel. At the end of the day, it is going to be a mid bass, and we're going to have all the harmonics playing here as well. So we're just going to give a little bit of space. Now, seeing that this is a mid bass, I find it completely fine to have it kind of spaced out and be a little bit mid-sidey. And more sidey. So we're gonna, instead of going in here and using the unison button and going a little bit crazy there, let's just go use the Ozone Imager. It's free, so I'm making an exemption that I'll use this. And let's open this up for a second. Ooh, gosh. Oh no. Okay, so we're completely out of phase. If we look at this correlation meter, we're going from 0 to -1. That is absolutely not okay in my book, so we're going to have to completely turn that off. Let's make sure that this is a 1 and completely mono instead. Okay, so now we have a mono signal. Let's use this stereoizer to stereoize it. Fine. So I'm basically looking at this little ball and making sure that it's somewhere around here, and we're never going below 0. Okay, so it's a cheap little trick, but it tends to do the job perfectly fine. Now let's get the bounce right. Now for the bounce, I have this Boots and Cats device. For people that have followed me, you know I've made this quite a while ago. You know that you can download it. If you haven't seen this video yet, make sure to go to the description. There's a link to a video, and there in that there's a link to download. And this little device is basically like the LFO tool. But it's in Ableton, and we're doing an Ableton 10.1 thing here. So what we're going to do is change the shape to begin with, because I want it to be, instead of womping with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and there's absolutely no bounce to it. If I just delay the bounce a little bit, so delay when the volume comes back up, then I get a whoop, 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 instead of a whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, so it's just that little bit of a drunk man shuffle thing because it's delayed. So let's have a listen to that. Let's listen to that in the mix as well. I'm probably going to have to fix this, the hi-hat a little bit as well, so it goes tip, tip in the same fashion. So let's just back off a little bit just for now. Make it a little bit late, but not too late. Now, we can do something else here as well. We can already go into advanced mode and just fix this little thing here. If we click on the shopping list over there, click on map, then click on filter, then we're going to have the auto filter moving at the same time as this is moving with the volume. So then we're going to have a wop, 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 the original sound to come back. Let's just go a little bit less. Fantastic. So I'll take that, and I'm going to also click a little bit of reverb and pop that in there, just to have to let the reverb, because this is my room, so this is like room reverb, and that reverb is going into the drums, remember, and that's going to be compressed all together. So then if I take this and put that into that room a little bit, then all the samples seem to be playing in that same room type of vibe. Let's see if that works. Okay. So let's just keep that the way that is and just turn that off for a second. Let's focus on the sub for a little bit. We have the decapitator, so I'm just going to turn that off because I'm going with Ableton 10.1 only. And I'm going to just ungroup the track, look at the sub for a second and see what it is. We have BA, the only sub you need. Okay. Let's see if that's true and let's have a listen. Okay, well, this is annoying already, so we're not using that filter. I think that sub is pretty okay. I wouldn't have mind taking a little bit of a top end, so I'm just going to take a sub here and oscillator it up 3 times, 4 times. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I always like to have a tiny little bit of top end, even out of my sub. Let's just look over here for a second. There's quite a lot of octave area stuff going on below this, so I'm gonna cut into that. This is never really the smartest thing to do because as soon as you start cutting into your low end too much, you can start distorting it and making it a bit awkward. Sometimes it works though. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut that at 20 hertz just to make sure that later on my limiter is still gonna like me and not haunt me in my sleep. So we have this. Let's use that same Boots and Cats, which is adjusted now. Let's just write that down with an auto filter. Otherwise, later on we'll be like, what the hell is that womp? With an auto filter, and we're just gonna take this and turn the auto filter off again for a second. And let's now balance this in as well and make sure that it's bouncing right with the track and that we have a right amount of low end. It's so quiet, I'm gonna give a little bit of volume to this thing. Okay, so now the question is, which is the infinite question of how do you set the right level for your bass? Now you can do little tips and tricks that I've done in the past with VU meters and things like that, but what I've found is that if you just use your ears and your mouse and then not look at what you're doing, it should be fine. So the trick goes as follows. You get your mid-layer bass and you make sure that that's mid-layer and not doing any low end. Okay, that's the first part. Second part is you make sure that your low end has a little bit of top end as well. So you can do this 2 ways. I always suggest you do the mid layer first and first set the mid layer so it works with the drums. So imagine that you're on stage, you're in the crowd and it's playing on stage, and imagine that the mid layer is doing a solo and it needs to just work with the drums. So you're just going to take this volume button. That sounds okay. Okay. Now we're gonna take the sub, do exactly the same thing. We're gonna slowly put up, but this time you're, still on that stage thing. You're looking at the stage. And you're just putting it up until it sounds warm and fuzzy. Good. Now what I would like you to do as well is just listen to that a little bit louder. Sorry for the microphone feedback right now. And what you can do later on as well is just adjust the Boots and Cats a little bit. If you find it a little bit too much, just adjust those knobs for a second. Now, the one thing that I really like doing. Generally speaking, I would compress and do things like that. But right now, it's not really doing boom, but it's just boom, wham, wham, wham. So it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. What I want to do instead is use a little bit of an amp. Let's use that, and let's do a shootout with pedal as well. The reason for this is I just kind of want to see if we can get a little bit of saturation on it. I don't want to use a saturator, so let's just use this amp. Let's click on amp, click on dual output, and let's put the dry wet down. Let's just put this through it and check out any of these to just see, does it add anything nice for us? No. Sounds like a wet fart. Pretty cool. Maybe we EQ that. That sounds pretty cool. Wet fart. Weird. Weird. Wet fart. So let's just use this. Okay, so I like the way that one sounded. Let's try out the pedal as well. My sub is gone. Let's click on sub. My sub is gone. Let's click on gain. God, Jesus. Bit of a fart. Okay, so let's just use the amp here. Instead, we'll use an EQ to just calm down the top end. We don't need that much top end because later on, we're going to have the massive stack of chords with lots of top end. Okay, so let's just take this and EQ out the top a little bit. I'll just use a shelf to be a little bit safe here. And now I have an overall balanced bass. I'm just going to do the same trick again. So we have the sub, the mid, and now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to slowly put it in and then see if we like it. Again, just drums on stage. I think that's fat. I think that's working. I think it's quite nice. We're going to have to check that with the harmonies, but the harmonies are probably way out of whack. They're way out of whack. Okay, that's for something a little bit later. As you can hear, those are still like all wonky and weird, but we're getting closer now. Okay, so that was it for this time. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I'll see you again next week. And if you're really interested in this kind of stuff and if you want to support the channel, please do so. Go over to Patreon and become a patron. On there's a little group of people and we're all fellow nerds and we share lots of nerdy things. And I also do listen and give feedback live like this on your track. And then you all learn something. Okay, take care. Much love. Oh yeah, and patrons also get to download the project file once it's done. Take care. Much love. See you guys next week.